This is a little owl that we've just found in one of the farm buildings. It was a bit forlorn and on the floor and didn't look very healthy. We're not quite sure what to do with it, but you know, it feels quite thin. You can feel its sternum and that here, and it's obviously not been feeding very well. So if we can give it a bit of food and then maybe try and release it. You can see it's looking at me as I turn it round. Its head twizzled round to watch me. It doesn't want to smile at the camera. They do fly during the day, they do come out during the day, but obviously with all this snow cover we've got at the moment, he will find it quite difficult to find things to eat. So I know we've got a composter with some worms in. I'm going to give it, see if it'll eat some of them. They eat beetles and all sorts, basically what they can catch. I don't want to keep it too long, get it really stressed. It seems quite calm, but what we're going to do is sit it in the top of this composter. We've dug some worms out and see whether it's interested in that. It's just a stab in the dark, we don't really know what we're doing. I'll sit it in there. Just leave it there with the lid off for the compost to see whether it takes any interest in any of the worms. It just looks to me as though it's got really cold.
Hi, my name's Jon Traill. I work for the Yorkshire Wildlife Trust, and we're out this morning on a frosty late winter's morning. We're actually talking about nest boxes, which might seem a bit of a strange time to be talking about them, but actually this time of year is a brilliant time of year to be thinking about nest boxes for all the bird species you might want to attract in a wildlife area. So behind us we've got some boxes, and these have been up since late winter actually. They're new boxes, being sited now because if you don't put them up at this time of year and wait till spring, it's actually a little bit too late in the season. They need to be up for a couple of months beforehand so that the birds get used to them, can start investigating them and decide whether they want to use them for nesting in this spring. So I'm stood next to this box. This is a standard classic nest box design. It's actually made out of plywood, which is fine. The shelf life of this isn't as long as a box that's made out of more robust timber, but this will last 3 or 4 years at least. It may last a bit longer if you look after it well, but eventually they do get damp and start to rot and you might need to replace them. The hole on this is designed for a wide range of species but won't attract other species, and we can get onto the design of the boxes with some other boxes we've got to show you. But this one's got a 32mm hole, which is the size that you'd actually use for the sparrows. The sparrows love nesting in boxes, but also things like great tits and also blue tits. If you only want blue tits in your nest box and you don't want the sparrows and great tits to get in, you'd actually reduce the hole size down to 26mm. That would only allow blue tits in and nothing else. You can see also it's got a nice overhang which stops the weather getting in, and the other important point is facing it in the right direction. This box is facing away from the midday sun. South is behind me, and in the summer it can get very hot when the sun's in the sky and the box would then heat up. This one is facing the opposite way, so it doesn't get the midday sun and doesn't heat up. So I've just moved a little way from the first box and we've got another nest box here. This is actually a triple box. It's called a sparrow terrace. It's specifically for sparrows, but the reason I've shown you is actually for cleaning out. This box actually has a hinged bottom to it, and it's quite important that nest boxes are cleaned out from time to time. If you leave them totally alone for year after year, the birds actually just fill the box up with new material and you end up with a box that actually is unusable. The other reason it's important for cleaning them out is because you can get a build-up of insect pests, particularly bird mite, and they live in the nesting material and then affect the birds when they go in the nest to nest. So this one, we open the bottom, literally pull out all the material, give it a clean. If it's really mucky, you can take it off where it's set up, give it a scrub out and then let it dry out and put it back up. I'll close this door up in the next week or so, and then it's ready for use again this spring. So we're just going to do a little section on the different boxes you can get, because different boxes will attract different birds. This is the standard box again. This has got a 32mm hole for your sparrows and your great tits, and is a box you can put pretty much anywhere. So the one you saw on a post, that's a good place, but they'll go on the side of a house, in a hedge, you can get a place to hang them, up on a tree, on the side of a shed. So pretty much anywhere these can be sited, as long as they're out of the worst of the weather, don't get the hot midday sun, and quite importantly, if possible, away from particularly household cats, which are good at climbing up walls and getting their paws inside these boxes. So away from where they could be predated upon by cats. So this one's a 26mm hole, whereas the one before was a 32mm hole. 26mm stops sparrows and great tits getting in. It's just for blue tits is this box. The third type of wooden box that we have, which is fairly standard, is the open fronted nest box. And in most gardens this is actually for two species in particular. A little bird called a hedge sparrow, also known as a dunnock. They nest in boxes like this, but more importantly, the one that most people love to see is the robin. Robins will not nest in a hole box at all. They won't go in the boxes with a hole. They want an open fronted box. Best place for this is again somewhere tucked away up on a tree or in a bit of hedge, somewhere tucked out of the way in a dark corner on the side of a wall with some ivy growing on it, so the robin can get away and hide away and build its nest inside here. So you can see we've just gone through a whole range of boxes, and what's important to understand is that different birds like different sizes and shapes of boxes, but there's some key things really that we've talked about. One, getting it sited away from where predators are going to get to it. Two, keeping it out of the worst of the weather. And three, understanding that holes are for certain birds, open fronts are for other birds, and the different size of the box. The final point is that some birds will not nest in boxes ever. Things like blackbirds and thrushes will not nest in a box. They actually will find a hedge to nest in or a tree to nest in. So natural nest places are important as nest boxes themselves. So if you've got a hedge or a tree, try and encourage that to thicken up so that other birds can nest as well.
The tomato seeds you saw being planted and then sorted by robots are now being sent out to greenhouses. The empty greenhouse is first prepared. It must be kept very clean. This reduces pests and disease and the need to spray chemicals to control them. Then the tomatoes are planted in rows. Set out is perhaps a better word than planted, as at first they are left in the rockwool blocks they come in. This is to encourage them to grow more trusses rather than roots.
It'll grow out into a truss. There'll be 8 or 9 flowers on it, which we then bring the bees in, which will pollinate the flowers, and then your tomatoes will start setting. And we expect to put a truss on every week of the year. So we should get up to about 30 trusses off in a year, in a full season. Now this should be visible within a week, should be clearly out. And within about 10 days we probably start seeing the first flowers, which is when we'll introduce the bees.
The tomatoes are placed in rows and then fastened to these strings. These men are fastening the tomato plants to the strings now.
We take a measurement of the greenhouse temperature, the relative humidity. Every morning we'll come in and we'll check our graphs and make sure the temperatures are being alright, the pipe temperatures are being alright, the vents are operating as they should be.
This greenhouse has just had a thermal shield fitted in the roof. This helps with insulation and keeping the right temperature. It will save on energy wastage and fuel costs, which are very high for a greenhouse. We will follow these tomatoes closely over the coming weeks. Cattle usually calve in the spring, so in preparation for this the farmer has been rounding them up. Rather than chase the cows around, which would not be good for their unborn calves, the farmer is trying to lure them out of the field by letting them see their food. See if it works. Success! It's working! Even though the farmer has to keep dropping a bit of food on the floor, the cows are now following him. Except these ones, they're having none of it. They're stood watching the farmer from the middle of the field. What do you think they're saying? Whilst cattle are happy having their calves outside, bringing them inside just makes it safer and easier for the farmer to monitor this important event. You can keep following our countdown to calving either via our website or on Twitter. Pigs can have their baby piglets all year round. Pigs giving birth is called farrowing. Most pigs farrow inside. We saw pregnant sows being kept and fed in large groups. The sow's pregnancy or gestation lasts 114 days. That's 3 months, 3 weeks and 3 days. The sows we saw were mated with a boar on the 15th of October, so when will they be due to farrow? About a week before they are due to farrow, the sows are taken out of the straw yards and moved to special farrowing houses. The farrowing houses are kept warm for the newborn piglets, and the sows are kept in special farrowing crates. The sows are kept in farrowing crates so that they don't accidentally lay on the pigs, injuring or even killing them. Having the sow in these crates also makes it easier for the farmer to tend the newborn piglets, giving them injections to keep them healthy. Pigs can farrow outside in special huts or farrowing arks. This is better for the sow as she is not confined. But it does mean that more of the piglets can be accidentally crushed. A sow can weigh over 250 kilograms, or they can die from cold. Did you work out when the sow was due to farrow? Oh, it's now! This sow is now farrowing, and she will have anywhere between 10 to 15 piglets in a very short time. The piglets are soon on their feet and feeding themselves. How old were you when you first walked and made your own tea? In the coming weeks we will follow these piglets as they grow up.